Do you want a remote pharmacist job? Well, I think you and everyone else, they want one. And in this video, we're going to talk about what sectors in pharmacy you should be looking if you want a remote job. And if you stick around, you'll learn a little list that I've put together of well over about 60 companies that are hiring remote pharmacist jobs. So with that, let's get into it. So I've broken down my list here into really 4 main sectors that are consistently hiring remote pharmacist jobs. And they are telehealth / digital health. I'm kind of lumping them together. Hope you're okay with that. Associations, academia, and then pharma. I've put a list together of well over 60 different companies and links to them that you can check out. If you click the link below in the description, you can get that PDF list there and start looking for yourself to see, hey, where are the jobs right now? Before I jump into the different sectors, I want to point out some caveats. There are remote jobs in pharmacy, yes. Some of these jobs will be asking you to move to the state that they want you to practice in. Say remote, but they don't really mean remote. It's almost impossible to enforce these kinds of rules. But I think we all know now, if you spend any time in the job market, you know that a lot of these jobs that they post online are not really the jobs that they have available, or they're placeholders, or sometimes they're fake jobs, or sometimes they just post jobs online and all they're wanting to do is gather up candidates for a job that they don't have right now. It's very odd behavior, and it's almost impossible to enforce these companies to tell the truth about all these postings, but it is what it is. I'm not going to be diving into each of these companies and their practices and what they're doing, especially for the ones that say it's a remote job, but you have to live in the state. We're just talking bigger picture here about where the opportunities are. And so the first sector is telehealth / digital health. You could call this just pharmacy, clinical pharmacy in general, because I lump in all sorts of categories into this. It's companies that are typically providing telehealth, remote access health to patients. And so that's doing anything from order verification to patient education to consulting with patients. That happens in places like specialty. It happened at my previous employer, the Veteran Affairs, where I hardly ever saw a patient, but I was always on the phone talking with them. Telehealth and digital health are technically different sectors, but I think they're practically very, very similar. It's the concept of just providing care to patients that don't need to come into a clinic or see a doctor in order to get the care that they need. You may have noticed a huge boom in this industry right before the pandemic, where all these businesses were being created providing niche services to niche disease states or niche patient populations, and just focusing on that patient population to provide care for. There's a little bit of, concern there. I do wonder about the future of these services and their scalability. There's a lot of money being poured into these worlds and a lot of startups, and I don't think we've seen a bust quite yet. We have seen a few get bought out. We've seen a few close. So it's really up in the air, but I think there's some great opportunities here. Even at major corporations are providing these services. So, pick and choose the paths that you're most interested in, but, realize that you're going to have probably more opportunity to grow, to learn in smaller startup organizations, but at the same time, you risk job security. While in some of these bigger organizations that provide these services are more rigid, they don't have as many opportunities for you. You can get bored over time. There's risk and rewards on both sides of the equation. My encouragement is that you bet on yourself and just get curious to see what's out there. Something else that you could lump in, although it's not technically digital health, is remote order entry, long-term care facility management. A lot of these places are trying to cut costs, and having a pharmacist go to every LTC is expensive. So it's related. I don't know. there's going to be someone arguing semantics with me about these categorizations, but let's face it, healthcare has a huge problem with sectors and being really definitive about what things are and what they aren't. People come to us and still are confused about what's the difference between PBMs and managed care. And I don't blame them. Lines are blurred and they're going to be blurry here. But my point is, what I'm saying is any pharmacist can go out and transition into specialty, into remote order verification, into long-term care facilities, into telehealth, digital health. More certifications are fine, but they're not really the most essential thing in order to go do this kind of work. Academics often enjoy a hybrid nature to their roles. Academics don't normally hold the 9-to-5 schedule. They're doing things in the evenings, on the weekends, they're going to conferences. Some of them have like a half and half role where they're half clinical, working for an organization, and the other time they're working in the university. But there are quite a few academic jobs that allow for hybrid work. A few of our coaches at the Happy PharmD have hybrid roles where they, yes, come into the university to do work, but they also work from home. And I think that's honestly very commonplace for many academic jobs. Working from home is usually widely acceptable. But of course, it needs to be negotiated if you're at some of these larger universities. And some of these larger universities have their own online learning program that allow for pharmacists to work from all over the world and teach anything in their institution. And if you're saying to yourself, well, Alex, I don't have a residency, I don't know how I would get into academia, well, I would point you to our interview with Elizabeth St. Clair on our podcast, who didn't have a residency, but was able to go from community into the university setting and had a great time doing, and is still there and loving her work. So the next sector is associations, and that's basically working with any nonprofit or sometimes for-profit associations within our profession. This is your state association. It's some of the national ones. And often the people within these organizations are working from home. One of our own Happy PharmD coaches, Janan Sarwar, was a previously head of publishing at American Pharmacists Association, where she worked from home. Sometimes, yes, had to go into the office, but it was very, very far away, would require a flight to honestly get there, but she had been working there for years. One of my old alumni buddies, Eric Roth, works for my state association, Michigan Pharmacists Association, and I just had a call with him the other day, and I could hear his kids in the background. I will put the caveat in for associations that if you're not involved in your association and all of a sudden you want to get a remote job, it's a long stretch. Associations are definitely biased to the people who are very involved in it, and they want to probably give them more likely a chance to get those kinds of jobs, which is great. Good for them. But if you're all of a sudden wanting to make that transition, it's unlikely to happen in a couple of months. My recommendation is to anyone is to get involved in your association. Not only can it be beneficial for your career, but the network opportunities that are available right at your fingertips, from a few phone calls away. You can meet some wonderful people in our profession who could be giving you your next remote job opportunity. And the final sector that I'll include is pharma. It's a huge, there's so many things. It's huge. There's so many different sectors that you could do in pharma, from medical science liaison to medical affairs to medical writing to medical information to regulatory affairs to market access to sales to who knows. But all of these sectors, yes, have jobs that often require people to go into the office, but there also are equally, sometimes just as many remote opportunities. We just did an interview with one of our former clients, Julie, who went from working in a peds hospital to becoming a medical science liaison, where she is mainly remote, but it does require some travel for her to go to on-sites and provide education to providers. And I guess as an aside, the other thing that any pharmacist can do is create a business. You can do a business in consulting. You can get involved in your local area and provide pharmacy services. You can do that, and it takes, admittedly, a lot longer to reach your goal of remote work that route versus just getting another job. Admittedly, I spent 5.5 years trying to build up my businesses so that I could work for myself and work remotely. And I've been so blessed to do it. I've been able to travel the country with my family. I've been able to go to different countries and still work if I wanted to. I've been truly blessed to do what I do. Look, I worked very hard to get my own remote job, and I would recommend it to anybody for the right person. But let's be honest too, that there are some downsides to remote. I disagree with the idea that remote work makes people less effective. I understand the ideology behind it, but I also, would honestly point to the fact that I've really enjoyed the retreats that I've been able to do with my company employees. We've been able to get together in person and have a lot of fun together, and we get a lot done. And because I'm remote and I work out of my house, I don't get that all of the time. I don't even get it once a month. I do see my team very often and frequently, but I don't get that in-person magic that I've seen happen. I'm no expert on remote work. I've helped a lot of people get remote jobs, but I have to, tell you, as someone who is probably leaning more towards the extroversion side of the personality spectrum, I do miss seeing people. I do. What a weirdo. Like, just go see people in real life. I've been doing remote work now since 2018 and do recognize that there is some magic in being in person and being around other people. And I don't get that. And I'm a little jealous. What can I say? It's a bummer, but it is what it is. I wouldn't give up what I do just to have that back. I wanted a lifestyle where I was constantly doing work that I enjoyed on my own terms. And that's not what everyone needs in life. Some people would die in this kind of atmosphere under the pressure or just the demands of what's required of me. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. And I don't believe that ideology that's out there that says like, oh, if you want a remote job, just like build your own business, build your own lifestyle. Anyone can do it. Yeah, anyone can, but not everyone wants to or should. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with it. What other sector of pharmacy did I miss? I feel like I covered a lot of the big bases, and you can see for yourself companies that are wanting to hire remote pharmacists in our list below. Just click the link, let us know what you think of it, and if you are working as a remote pharmacist, how do you like it? I'm guessing you probably enjoy it, especially if you came from working, let's say, in the public sector. Don't want to call out names, but sometimes having a break from them is nice. Thanks for watching this video, and until I see you in the next one, take care.